hopeful, like good news, and you're happy about that and looking forward to that. But I'm guessing a fair portion of us have some questions and maybe some reluctance around that. And I understand that whole thing because, I certainly have had those, and I'll talk about those in a little bit. So my hope is today that for us who have those questions and maybe some reluctance around that I can move towards a realistic hope of what healing can be for us through Jesus Christ in our time and place. Okay? When I think of healing, I think of the fact that it's kind of ongoing. It's an ongoing sort of thing. And that is because if you look at your life, there's usually some level there's something wrong. It could be in relationships you have that just are tense and you're feeling that, some discomfort around that. It can be in our bodies, something going on in our bodies. And it could be in our souls. Something's happened to stir up our souls. And the way I categorize those is kind of like going to the t-shirt rack. I categorize them, it's oversimplified, but small, medium, and large. All right? So I think of small discomforts, pains, and suffering. So in the winter, sometimes, my hands get really dried up, my cuticles just crack. It gets a nice crack along the cuticle, and it kind of hurts, and I bleed a little bit even, and that's a small thing. And the mark of a small thing is you can largely just ignore it and move on. It really doesn't affect my life much. And the same in relationship things. You might have just got a little slight from somebody or just a little tension in the relationship, and by and large, you can just move on and ignore it, and life goes on, and you can move ahead. Excuse me. But the mediums are harder to ignore. They start affecting us, the medium-sized things. And what I think distinguishes medium-sized things is they're medium because you have to manage around them. But you can manage around them. So say you have a bit of a sore back, not just a terrible sore back, but a bit of a sore back. So say lifting things, you can't do that, or maybe bending in certain ways. But you can manage around all that. You don't have to lift things, and you don't have to bend in those certain ways. Or maybe there's a relationship that you keep running into at work or something that's pretty conflicted. And you just learn to kind of keep off certain topics or avoid them when you need to. You manage around it. The medium size. And then there's the large size. And of course, these are the serious things we deal with. This is where you've lost a loved one. And that grief boils up in you, and you cannot ignore it. It kind of owns you, if you will. It becomes part of your focus. It's just there for you, ongoing a lot of the time. Or maybe you've been in a car wreck and you've injured your leg and it just doesn't work anymore. That's a large thing. That's going to go, or you have a disease process like cancer going on. It's in your head. You know you have a large thing going on for you. And the thing I've noticed is, if you've noted this, is there are things in relationships which are really kind of soul things, like loss of a loved one. And there are also things that are on the physical side, like getting in a wreck and having your leg hurt. The thing I want to note is, as much as they might come from different origins, of kind of more soul, more body, that those things all kind of get blended together in our own experiences. That if you've been in a wreck, in a car wreck, you could end up depressed or bitter or in self-pity because of that wreck. And that thing is haunting you because you've had this physical injury. And so it flows right over to your soul. And the soul things, if you get too mucked up in your head and how you're thinking about things, guess what? You can get physically sick. You can end up having an injury because you're just not thinking straight, all that sort of thing. So these two things kind of blend together. We're all one person, as much as there's some differentiation on that. Well, Jesus goes up to this man in our gospel reading today at this pool. It was understood to be a healing pool. The sense was that when the wind blew over the pool and ruffled the waters, and remember in Hebrew and Greek, the same word for wind is the word for spirit. So it was thought of as kind of as a spirit of God ruffling across the waters. And that kind of gave it some healing power in that moment. The first person in, if you will, would suck up that healing power and get well. So Jesus is walking up to this pool where these people are hanging out trying to get into the water to get well. And he sees this guy who's been there for some decades. And he's laying there and he asks him, "Do you want to be made well?" And the guy's not a smart aleck, so he doesn't say, "Well, I've only been here for 38 years. Of course I want to be made well." He doesn't do that to him. But he does, I think, what Jesus is asking that question for is to get him to turn from worried about the ruffling of the water to be made well to seeing Jesus as the one who's going to make him well. I think that's what Jesus is up to here. And so this guy goes on and explains the water and how with his disability he's never the first guy in. He's in a no-win situation. He's too crippled up to be the first one in the water, so he's really in a no-win situation. There's not a lot of hope for him. And he kind of explains this whole thing to Jesus. And Jesus looks at him and just commands him, take up your mat and walk. And the man takes up his mat and walk. And when I think about this man, I think of a man who's clearly got stuff going on in body and soul, and now he's well. That Jesus has come through for him and made him well. And Jesus does this for lots of folks, doesn't he? I mean, I think of a bunch of blind men he healed, a number of lepers he healed, the women with the bleeding, the paralytic. In fact, the crowds would come around him when he was out there healing, so much so that he would have to pull away and get some rest because it just wore him out. All this kind of, if you will, healing. So he's got this deep-rooted sense that he is involved in healing people's lives. And he often did so to help them see him as God's son, as God among them, the holy eternal among them. That it was beyond just having them be well, that carrying act there, that they came to know there's something more than this world, which always fails us, for them, that this Jesus is there to this faith. And you can see this going on in the gospel readings, not the gospel, but the other writings in the New Testament where his followers go out and they do some healing. And one place it counsels elders to come together and lay hands on people for healing. So it's a big part of the New Testament is this sense of healing. And then we can struggle with that. And we struggle with it because our experience doesn't often line up with it. It's certainly the case in my life. So as a youth, I started getting, they were publishing these books that really were kind of a list of stories of miracles that were happening in the world today. And a good chunk of those miracles happening in the world today were kind of healing stories. And I began to think, oh man, they can heal anything. And so I started chasing this thing down kind of the Pentecostal road, if you will. And I got into Pentecostalism, because all the possibilities, and they believe these things, that all this kind of healing stuff could happen today. And so I'm a part of all these people praying for other people to be healed for a number of years there. And the problem with my experience was no one got healed. It's a problem at some point. After you prayed and you prayed and you prayed, and no one's healed, they just start getting a little skeptical. And somehow I stayed with the church, came back into the Lutheran circles, became a pastor, and that becomes a problem because now, you're reading the gospel readings or other stories, and you got more healings in them, and now what do you do with them? I got this skeptical side to me, and yet I got to talk about this stuff, and so you can feel that little tension in there. And I think you all maybe know something of that tension. Your experience and what these stories are saying, kind of, how do you resolve this? Well, I think there's a couple things we can do here. And the first one is, in that experience I had, they had a couple assumptions. The first one was, if you have enough faith. Anybody hear that out there? If you just had enough faith, this would be fixed. This, Larry's arm would be healed today if we just had enough faith, that sort of thing. Pick on Larry over here. And if you just had enough faith, but eventually that guilts you out because, again, if you just get enough empties, eventually, well, I don't have faith or something. You start, conclude that. And the second one is it needs to be instantaneous. That it should happen just right on the spot like that. And maybe it can, I don't know, but it's a bad general thing. So here's the two things I came up with, and that's this. That is, first is, I don't care how much faith you have, some things are not going to get fixed and not get made well. If you had the most holy people, faithful people across the world, 1,000 of them gathered around and prayed for the guy who's missing a leg, that leg is not showing back up. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. Some things just won't be healed. You even think of the people Jesus healed in his day. Every last one of them eventually got sick and died. Just saying. They're all gone for now 2,000 years. They've been dead because they got sick and they died. So God isn't going to heal everything. We know that. So let's not mince around that one. God is not going to heal everything. And the second one that I had to turn on is that instantaneous thing. And the way I do that is I see healing as a process that's built into our lives and our nature. If you get a cut, you don't have to pray for that. It's going to heal, isn't it? Because your body has that healing power to just bring it back together, heal it over, and pretty soon you don't even know it was there. And I think the same kind of dynamics happen in our soul. The whole grief process is our working through our pain to be well again. And it's just coming up in us. And if we let it, it helps. We can get in the way of things. We can get an infection in our gut. We can get an infection in our soul wounds. And I think bitterness, depression, self-pity, things like that are like infections in our souls. And we can get those in there. So we're on this healing process. Our bodies and souls want to heal. And there's things we can do to help that, to support that. The first one is eat right and exercise, all right? Take care of yourself, number one. Number two, I think we can do is get good medical care when we need it. Don't mess around with that. Go get the care you need because they can help you these days. And the third one I want to add that I think is still important is we can care about each other and pray for each other. That there is a power still there that can just go right through your body and make a difference. And I want to explain part of the power of that for you. Part of the power of that for us is we tend to bear things on our own. We're very private people. And so you're going through something, it's hard to talk about it. It's hard to share it with others. It's hard to really open up and let go of much of that what's in there. And to let somebody pray for you, to bring it out in conversation even, there is a release with that of the burden, the tension and the anxiety that you have allowed to build up by trying to do it on your own. That your healing, I see, is very communal. It's a relational thing, and opening to that through prayer can really go deep and quickly. And the second thing is, in the prayer is, it's as much as a community thing can help with that, to put the second layer on that it's a divine thing. That God is in the community. That the God who knows more than all the stuff going on in your lives is there for you, and you know that God is touching your life through the prayers of the saints. It's just another level. And it opens you to realize, hold it, there's something more. Even if this doesn't get healed, I'm okay. I'm with Paul. His grace is going to be sufficient. It hits you. I'm going to be all well. So I think someone could be in a very well place and dying of cancer. That someone can be in a well place and, have a lot of pain in their lives. Because they're connected. It diffuses into the community through the prayers and the caring of the people around them. There's just a power for that in God. If you want to say that's the rippling of the pool that we jump into to say, I need this. So today, after our communion, you're welcome to come up to one of these rails and let somebody put their hands on you, pray for you that you might be well. It's an opportunity, a way that God's Spirit works through a community to share what you are maybe carrying too much on your own, to let you know that there's something more than this world for you, and who knows what that will do for your soul. And from your soul, who knows what that will do for your body. Come. And let the healing of God be with you. Amen.
I invite you to